all, that's not the typical fighting spirit that Miri Regev usually projects. Perhaps they're accepting the budget as a fait accompli. But I want to ask you, Dahlia, is that going to maybe, what impact could that have on the opposition if that budget is passed and it looks like this government is going to be sitting here for quite a bit longer?
I mean, the opposition is not in a great situation to begin with because they know that the budget will pass, and I think that there's no one strategy for how to bring this government down. They're shooting it in every direction. I think Netanyahu's speech was an interesting indication that he only has his populism to fall back on. He politicized Corona. He said that all of the deaths that happened over the last wave were because of the government. There can be little that's more dangerous for the good of the public health situation than to politicize the issue. And I feel like that's just part of a tactic because he doesn't really, there is no clear path to bringing down the government except to do what he's always done. He's not reinventing himself, and I'm not sure if the Likud has anybody who has new ideas about how to do that. The only person one of the people, I should say, who has shown himself to have designs of possibly leading the Likud and becoming a challenger in the near future is Nir Barkat, who was today.
He didn't have the best of days.
He didn't have the best of days. We'll get into that. Should we say why?
No, the Pandora Papers, but we have it later in the program.
Right. I mean, things aren't going that well for the Likud right now.
Right. And I want to raise up a related point on that, Jeremy, because there's been talk that if the government passes a budget, the coalition or its leadership may be looking to pull apart the opposition, and that's generated a little bit of discord in the coalition. Do you see that as a viability?
Yeah, look, I remember the inauguration of the government. I told you already then that is something we were working on. We're working on it now. I heard what Lieberman had to say. I respect the finance minister. I think it's something that's obvious to everyone. Once we pass this budget, and I can report to you that based on what's happening right now in all the committees, the splitting of the arrangements bill, we're on time to pass this budget even beforehand, meaning we can do this already in early November if we want to. We need to enlarge this coalition to ensure a situation where we can have more maneuverability and not have each MK who wants to take us somewhere. Because once we pass that budget, yes, we could be in a situation where each person tries to take us down to a different adventure in terms of whatever lane they might be in their particular party. If we expand the coalition, that is something we're able to get out of. One way to do it is for sure to bring in the ultra-Orthodox parties. There are other ways to expand this coalition. We'll see what happens.
Well, hold on. Let's leave that point for now. I want to go back to our Eli Hochenberg in the Knesset, Eli, because if this coalition does have one weak link, Achilles heel, it is on what we call peace and security issues. We just saw that graphically illustrated this week with a visit by members of the Meretz party of the coalition to visit Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas, who Prime Minister Bennett says he will not even have one meeting with.
Right. So if when we're talking about politics, this coalition is proving that while it might be incohesive, does not mean that it will be incoherent. When we're talking about policy, it is perhaps more challenging. But according to what we're hearing, they're also quite determined to overcome those difficulties. Indeed, a lot of criticism from within the coalition on the mere meeting we've seen between Meretz leaders and President Mahmoud Abbas in Ramallah. With that said, Foreign Minister Yair Lapid said only short days ago, while visiting Bahrain, saying, well, I support the two-state solution. I would like to see it gaining traction, but I cannot speak on behalf of my fellow coalition members. And we're seeing this very diverse standpoint vis-a-vis the Palestinians or the peace process with the Palestinians time and time again. But it seems that, again, coalition members are determined to overcome these differences as well. Let's take a listen to what Yair Golan from the Meretz party told us about this meeting, saying, well, so what? It's a meeting.
What is the problem with meeting Mahmoud Abbas? I don't understand why we invest so much emotions in such a basic and essential issue. Even with your enemy, it's better to talk rather than to fight. It's so clear and obvious, and so therefore, since we have some relationship with the Palestinian Authority, and since our relationship contribute so much to the security of Israel, so what is the problem?
But Kalev, it's not just Yair Golan who is saying, so what? It's just a meeting. Also, YOSSI SHEIN from the hawkish Israel Beitenu party of Avigdor Lieberman saying the exact same, has the exact same response, rather saying, yes, it's a meeting. And even Meretz party leaders know it will not take them any further when we're talking about the overall peace process. Let's take another listen.
I think that Meretz has to pay tribute to their own voters, and I listen to MK Rosine and what she says. We know nothing will happen, but nevertheless we have to go to the performance. And it was Mansour Abbas. Gantz met with him. So be it, you know. But it doesn't affect the essence of this coalition, which came to replace a terrible government.
Oh, Eli Hochenberg in the Knesset, thank you for that. An interesting day there. Well, Jeremy, let's puncture the unity of your coalition a bit that you're so proud of. What's the problem, as Yair Golan says, that your party has with some members just even taking a meeting with Mahmoud Abbas?
Well, you know, obviously the problem is the Palestinian Authority is taking us to the ICC. You have the situation of pay for slay, and I can keep going down the list. But what really matters here is there are a lot of ministers in this government. There's one prime minister, and the one who is setting the agenda is the prime minister. Meretz can go ahead and sit with whoever it is that they want to sit with. Ayelet Shaked, right now, our interior minister, she's in Dubai. We actually have, you know, a peace deal there. You know, so she's right now in the Gulf. People can, within their ministries, as ministers, as personal people, can meet with who they want. What matters is the agenda that is set by the prime minister and the ruling party of the coalition. The prime minister said very clearly he is not going to meet with Mahmoud Abbas. It's that simple. If Meretz wants to go ahead and do so, they can do that. We'll criticize them for doing so. But when it comes down to it, they are speaking only for themselves and not for the government when they conduct these meetings.
Right. Dahlia, the government's not going to fall over a meeting with Mahmoud Abbas, but a lot of people speculate a serious security incident, an operation in Gaza, some new diplomatic initiative by the U.S. that the center left of the coalition is ready to respond to, and not the more right-wing elements. Is this where this government could fall?
It certainly could fall over this kind of thing, but I don't expect it to. I would not hold my breath for that sudden American peace initiative that the center-left might agree with, because I don't see the Biden government doing anything like that. In fact, the Biden government, the president himself, seemed pretty happy to agree with Prime Minister Bennett when they sat together, and Bennett said, let's have economic peace. Let's think about material improvements rather than looking at a comprehensive political agreement. He then went home and reiterated that he didn't plan on doing anything like a peace process. I don't think that's a healthy thing. I personally think that if the Palestinians are going to the ICC, it's because nothing else has worked. Mahmoud Abbas was at one point very pro-negotiations and pro-two states. He says he still is. But after years of delegitimization, this is what you get to. We're certainly not about to reach a comprehensive
move
political...
on this, though.
Which move on what?
The move of Abbas to take Israel to the ICC.
I would like to see the alternative. I certainly don't support violence against civilians or in general. And so you have to understand that people aren't going to live under occupation forever. And if the Bennett government's going to ask them to, they will have a response from the Palestinians. I hope that it's a nonviolent response.
I have to say, Dahlia is expressing the views of a large chunk of your coalition, Jeremy. And I said again, yes, a meeting is one thing to meet with Abbas, but if it comes to a court case in the ICC and the government has to be polled on it or some other thing, this again could be where you run into real headwinds here in the coalition.
The Prime Minister went and sat with President Biden in the public statements. You heard he did not mention the Palestinians. He just had a UN speech where, again, he did not mention the Palestinians. There are other issues on the agenda. When we sat around with these very members that you're talking about within our coalition to form this government, we said we have red lines, and you're going to have to respect them. There are a lot of things we agree with. There are a lot of things we agree to disagree with. Now, if you agree that Iran is a bigger issue than the Palestinians, if you agree that passing a state budget and ending 3 years of just endless political chaos is something that is more important than having talks, which frankly are probably not going to go anywhere. So you can understand why even members of all of the parties to the left that agree with Dahlia's position here decided to put all that stuff aside and they agreed to enter this coalition under that, and they're working within those lines. Again, they want to go ahead and meet with Abbas. That's fine. Nothing's going to happen.
They have agreed with that as long as Benjamin Netanyahu is in the picture. It might be interesting to see if he was not in the picture, how long that unity can stay. But we're going to have to leave it at that for now. Dahlia Scheindlin, I'm sure you're dying to respond. Jeremy
Always.
Saltan, you will have a chance. I'm sure this debate will come back in the coalition.